Dr. Richard Macheski, Superintendent of the Troy School District, and on behalf of the Troy Martin Luther King Jr. Day Committee, I would like to welcome you to our annual Celebration of Freedom. This special event has been organized to honor the spirit and memory of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Please rise and join the Athens Hike Concert Choir and Magic under the direction of Michelle Fredericks in singing the national anthem. It is my pleasure to introduce Padma Kupa and Steve Spreitzer from Michigan Roundtable for Diversity and Inclusion to speak and then lead us in our Unity Walk. Padma is a board member for the organization and Steve is President, CEO. The Michigan Roundtable for Diversity and Inclusion, under various previous names, is one of the oldest human rights organizations in Detroit, going back to before the 1943 race riot. Over the years, it expanded from being an organization largely confined to building bridges between Catholics, Protestants, and Jews to one embracing more diverse and inclusive interests. To its great credit, the Roundtable has adjusted to the rapid social changes and difficult challenges of the region by developing effective programs geared not only to combating all types of discrimination, but to building and sustaining a diverse and inclusive community. It has been both a leader and a cheerleader in this noble effort for over 6 decades. Padma and Steve.
Good morning, namaste, welcome to MLK Celebration 2015. 10 years ago, I met with exclusion here in Troy, and I reached out. Fortunately, we have a beloved community here, as MLK said. The Friends were not silent, and we have an organization that is 10 years old, Troy Area Interfaith Group. But that would not have happened if I had not walked with a dear, dear friend, Steve Spreitzer. The Michigan Roundtable for Diversity and Inclusion has done much, not only in the region, but specifically in Troy, and has assisted me in all the work that I do, and I'm very grateful. And I wanted to make sure that when we walked this morning and when we walked on the stage together, Steve and I did so together, as we have done for the last 10 years in this work of inclusion and in building that beloved community.
Thank you, Padma. Well, good morning. It's good to be here. And Padma, thanks for your leadership. You know, your leadership at the temple, in the city, in the region, in the state, nationally and internationally. You know, when you start to wonder and ask how everyone else is doing, especially those who are on the margins, and you're faithful to that, it can take you far places. But yet, here you are, asking that question, how are my fellow citizens doing here in Troy? It was some 30 years ago that my late brother John and my sister-in-law Judy, hi Judy, moved here to Troy, so I've watched this city grow. I froze my hands off at your soccer games, yelling for the Big Reds, and this community is really rich and diverse, but that doesn't mean that you really have an inclusion, right? So for people who look like me, we might think everything's great, but we have to ask, how are you doing in school? How are things going with law enforcement? How are things going in the businesses here? And so one thing we know about communities around the state is that you have all you need to make sure everyone's welcome and treated fairly. But it doesn't mean that people are organized in a way to make that happen. And when we remember Dr. King, that's one thing that he was most noted for, was creating a social movement that organized people to make things change for the good. So I want to thank you for your leadership, Padma. I want to thank the schools and this community for continuing to try and be a place where everyone is welcome and treated fairly. I also want to thank two of your sponsors, DTE Foundation and Beaumont, who also support our work. So I look forward to joining the walk, and I think we're ready to go, huh? Thank you.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was an individual who, in a relatively short period of time, accomplished extraordinary deeds. His words and actions touched an entire nation, causing us to look at the world and the condition of our fellow human beings through his eyes. Before we begin, I would like to take a moment to introduce members of the Troy Board of Education who are able to be with us this morning. I'll start with, and I'm not sure exactly who's here, but so I'm going to announce them all. Nancy Philippart, Dr. Nancy Philippart, President. Dr. Todd Maletti, he'll appreciate the doctor comment. Todd Maletti, Vice President. Carl Schmidt, Secretary. Ida Edmonds, Trustee. Paula Fleming, Trustee. Gary Hoff, Trustee. And Wendy Underwood, Trustee. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you Troy City Manager Brian Kishnick.
Thank you, Dr. Macheski. It's my pleasure to share the stage with you and Yarlin and her son Malcolm and all the other students who will be up here today in celebration of this special day. And before we enjoy the performances, let us come together as a community to reflect upon the importance of this day. Let us all remember the words of Dr. King. Man must evolve for all human conflict, a method which rejects revenge, aggression, and retaliation. The foundation of such a method is love. I'd like to now introduce the Troy City Council, starting with Mayor Dane Slater, Mayor Pro Tem Jim Campbell, Councilmember Steve Gottlieb, Councilmember Ellen Hoderick, Councilmember and former Mayor Pro Tem Dave Henderson, Councilmember Ed Pennington, and Councilmember Doug Teets. And a few other very important people who have joined us today. Our new U.S. Congressman Dave Trott, State Senator Marty Nolenberg, who are all in the audience today. Thank you for sharing in this day. We are starting this morning with a focus on the students of our community, the foundation of any community. And it's my pleasure to recognize the student essay contest winners. As part of today's program, the Troy MLK Committee sponsored an essay contest for high school and middle school students. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge and controversy." The essay theme was, what am I doing to make a positive change in my community? More than 500 entries were received at the middle school level alone. So as I call your name, please come up on stage. So there were 500 entries, and I did make my own son and daughter this weekend do their own, even though it wasn't an entry. Just a homework assignment for them. Honorable mention for Libby Jackson, a 7th grader at Larson Middle School. Libby?
Life is full of scenes that make us avert our eyes or scare us. But what makes us cringe is what most needs our attention. Few will stare fear in the face and take action. Those who do are heroes. People like Joseph Schindler, who protected Jews during the Holocaust. People like Mahatma Gandhi, the peaceful voice of India when things were otherwise violent. People, especially, like Martin Luther King Jr., who realized change won't come unless someone fights for it. Dr. King looked at suffering and saw hope. He was a rare person, one we needed. Imagine the world full of kings. If the world would confront conflict, we'd be taking steps towards the greater good. Today, I pledge to be more like King. I won't shrink from challenging situations, but instead I will help. I will follow in the footsteps of our heroes. King's life proves one person can inspire a difference. Instead of being afraid and turning away, I will stare down the struggle.
And the 3rd place winner is Preeti Kumaran, an 8th grader at Bolin Park Middle School.
In our fast-paced, busy life today, we find it an extra hassle to think about our neighbor's happiness, let alone a stranger's. But small actions and kind words, which may not seem important, make a big difference. It is important to give back to our community, which gives us so much. Donating money to charities is very helpful. However, volunteering shows care and consideration to the community. I volunteer at retirement homes and help organize activities. Additionally, I aid struggling students to help them read and write in Tamil. I want to make a lasting impact on our community. Everyone has goals in life. For some, it's to become an astronaut and reach the stars. For others, it is to become president or become rich. Helping the society reach their goals and feel like they can do anything they desire is how I make a positive change in my community. Thank you.
And the 2nd place winner of the essay contest is Arushi Chandra Kapuri, an 8th grader at Baker Middle School.
I have never won a Nobel Peace Prize. I have never suffered through hardships just to be heard, or boycotted to help a whole racial group gain rights. Not to say that I never will, but impact is so difficult to make when you're a quiet teen among many. We can go through life wishing that our name is remembered for something significant, or we can go through life doing small, insignificant deeds that are remembered in people's hearts. I choose the latter. When I sing to raise money for a charity in the Philippines, help a fellow student with homework, make someone laugh when they're going through difficult times, or simply pick up a piece of trash laying on the sidewalk, I know I'm making a positive impact in my community. Making a positive impact does not mean changing the world. It means changing your outlook on it. Thank you.
And our 1st place winner is Anjara Pusapati, a 7th grader at Baker Middle School. She's actually an 8th grader at Larson.
I have always strongly believed that the smallest acts of kindness have the biggest impacts. Therefore, in order to positively impact my community, I have performed a variety of simple but meaningful deeds. For example, I have voluntarily spent many hours aiding the elderly and less fortunate through conducts such as snow shoveling, leaf raking, fundraisers, donating products essential to life, and a multitude of others. While serving those as I have is a great way to help my community, the easiest, most effective way to help is to simply treat others as you would like to be treated. Because of this statement, I believe my biggest contribution to society is treating others, no matter who they are, with respect and kindness. It may seem small, but if everyone in my community followed this policy as I do, it would revolutionize our society.
So now we'll have them pose as a group and take a picture. What a wealth of talent we have within the Troy schools. I'm so glad that my own kids are part of the Troy Community School District. It is the best school district, not only in Michigan, but the Midwest, and I say the country. So congratulations to everyone who's a part of the school district. We're very proud of all the students who participated. And the judges said it was very difficult to choose winners from all the tremendous essays. So now let's introduce you to our high school winners. In 3rd place, we have Ruchicha Chanani, a 12th grader at Troy High.
On my first day as a hospital volunteer, I met a woman whose liver had ruptured and another who had schizophrenia. I had the job of restocking equipment and giving patients comfort. As time passed, I started socializing. I spent time talking with an elderly lesbian who traveled worldwide, a middle-aged black man who owned a tavern, and a Mexican Christian who loved bike riding. Their experiences were like varied snow globes of cities and forests. Soon, volunteering turned into a treasure hunt of listening to personal stories and understanding diverse backgrounds, trials, and dreams. But in these stories, they all desired one thing: hope. Hope for good health, love, and care. Now, as a student mentor, I not only train new volunteers on the basics of patient care, but also encourage them to spend time with patients and tell them how helping them has enriched my life and learning. Thank you.
In 2nd place, we have Natasha D'Souza, a 10th grader at Athens High School. Unfortunately, she's not able to be here, so Isabella Von Brun will read her essay in her place.
I have decided to stick with love. Hate is too great a burden to bear. These words of Martin Luther King Jr. resonate with me like no others, and I wholeheartedly agree with the concept. Abhorrence of people or things around oneself will not add to character or make living with things any easier. Instead, we can choose to focus on the things we hold near to us and try to spread love where we have the opportunity to give it. A wonderful way to spread this message to one's community is volunteer work, which I have learned from volunteering at a senior living center. I help out with bingo there on Saturdays, and I love the feeling I get from knowing that I am helping to make a positive change in my community. The people who live there are so kind and wise, and I'm honored to be able to speak with them and learn from them. Often, if they win a prize, they offer it to me, but I decline, because helping the community in itself is a prize. I realize all too well that this is just one piece of service and I do not change my community a great deal. But perhaps I can set in motion a chain of good which will encourage everyone to contribute to the community. Thank you.
And our first place winner is Ellen Zhang, who is a 12th grader at Troy High. Ellen also won last year, but the judges do not see the names of the students when they are choosing the winners. So Ellen, come on up.
I bike under the blazing sun as my legs scream in agony and cry for rest. Brow sweaty, legs sore, and chest heaving, I eagerly enter the air-conditioned Brookdale nursing home. Here, I forge unforgettable relationships with the elderly. Here, I strive to better the lives of others, just as Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had done. Dr. King passionately, prudently, and powerfully reformed America, despite great challenges and controversy. Although we may not all face the difficulties or revolutionize the nation as he did, I realize that by helping others, it is just as paramount. While a man's worth is measured by his stand during the most strenuous and trying of times, it's even more illuminated by his actions when faced with opportunities to create change. Personally, through maneuvering wheelchairs, helping out with crafts, gardening, and calling out bingo, I'm driven to make a positive impact on my community. Thank you.
I'd like to now call on Dr. Macheski for the video contest winners.
Again this year, the committee offered a video contest for our students. They also worked off the theme, what am I doing to make a positive change in my community? We will bring the winners on stage and then watch the winning videos. Special thanks to Patrick Conable, Smith Middle School, and Jeff Williams, Bowen Park Middle School, for teachers for assisting with this video project. From our middle school entries, honorable mention goes to 8th grader Richard Lou Lee from Bowen Park Middle School.
It's never too young to better our community. We do not need to wait a single second to improve. Small things can make a big difference. Here's what I've done. Let's make our communities better through our own efforts. Because if you give a little love, you can get a little love of your own.
In third place, we have the team of 8th graders, Kaylee Kaur and Jenna Eunice, and 7th grader Zach Pierre from Bowen Park Middle School.
He was a nonviolent force for change.
He was assassinated for fighting for the civil rights of people.
Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech helped change all of our perspectives on race.
Good judgment in a very volatile time.
Equality for all.
All right, in second place, we have a team of 8th graders, Noelle Rozenka and Fiona Warner from Smith Middle School.
Hi, my name is Fiona.
And my name is Noelle.
One way we make a positive change is by running a program called the Splash Bash.
We run Splash Bash for girls in kindergarten through 6th grade.
Every year we choose a theme and make games and crafts to follow the theme.
The girls also tie-dye shirts and go swimming.
For example, last year was a space theme. The girls made space slime, an out-of-this-world picture frame, and reached into a black hole to grab prizes.
One effect this has is that it makes girls happy.
It also teaches the girls new songs and crafts, gives them ideas for events to run when they are older.
This also teaches the older girls who are running programs leadership skills. This is how we make a positive change in our community.
And in first place, we have the team of Ava Tacanelli, Dee Hodai, Ellen Exhorn, and Olivia Swider, all 8th graders from Bowling Park Middle School.
Boys and black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. All of God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro.
Outstanding job by all of our middle school video contest winners. They did a fabulous job. This year, we did have a teacher from Costello Elementary, Mr. Grayson McKinney, who worked with his 4th grade class to produce a series of videos with iMovie on their iPads. Congratulations to those talented elementary school students. The videos were playing as you entered the auditorium this morning. For the high school contest, our 2nd place winner is Jenny Yang, 11th grade, and Richard Yang, 9th grade at Troy High.
A few moments of your time can save a student from illiteracy.
Make a positive change in your community and fight illiteracy by holding book drives and donating books to schools in need.
And our 1st place winner in the high school division is Amin Sinaf, a 10th grader at Troy High. He was also the winner last year. Unfortunately, Amin cannot be here this morning.
We're all fortunate enough to say that we live in an amazing community that makes us feel right at home. However, there's no limit to excellence. We can always do better. Let's show each other our ultimate measure by doing something positive to improve the place we call home. I make a positive impact in our community by striving to cultivate a love for learning within myself and those around me, because communities are based off of a strong education. My name is Amin Sinaf, and I'm trying to do my part to improve our community, and I'm asking you to join me. Together, let's follow the footsteps of Dr. King.
Thank you. What great videos. What great students we have. New to our program this year was also an art contest. And for the middle school, the honorable mention goes to Amy Zhang, 7th grader at Bowling Park Middle School. Check out her award-winning entry on the screen as she comes up. Third place award goes to 7th grader Ashley Weinberg from Larson Middle School. Again, check out her entry. Our middle school art contest 2nd place winner at Heathy Athi Kumar, a 7th grader at Bolin. And Athi, come on up here. And first place award goes to 7th grader Emily Wu from Bolin as well. Don't we have some talented 7th graders? And now for the high school art contest winners. In 2nd place, Dana Lee, 9th grader at Troy High. Please check out her entry. The first place art award goes to June Choi as a 9th grader at Troy High. Let's give them one more round of applause as they have their picture taken.
Thank you, Brian. We'll now hear from 2 12th grade sisters from Athens High who will be reading poems to celebrate today. Isabella Von Brunn, is reading I Too Sing America by Langston Hughes.
I too sing America. I am the darker brother. They send me to eat in the kitchen when company comes. But I laugh and eat well and grow strong. Tomorrow, I'll be at the table when company comes. Nobody will dare say to me, eat in the kitchen then. Besides, they'll see how beautiful I am and be ashamed. I too am America. Thank you.
Thank you, Isabella. And now, Christina Von Brunn will read A Dream Deferred by Langston Hughes.
What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun? Does it or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat or crust up and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode? Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Throughout his short life, Martin Luther King Jr. was committed to public education. He believed that only through education would the civil rights movement truly reach its goal. Dr. King wrote that leaders of this movement must press for quality, integrated education, or the whole drive for freedom will be undermined by the absence of a most vital and indispensable element, learning. It is now my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Yarlin Daniels, Marketing and Communications Director of Race Forward, the Center for Racial Justice Innovation. Race Forward advances racial justice through research, media, and practice. Founded in 1981, Race Forward brings systemic analysis and an innovative approach to complex race issues to help people take effective action towards racial equality. Race Forward publishes the daily news site Color Lines and presents Facing Race, the country's largest multiracial conference on racial issues. In addition, Race Forward presents a biennial conference, Facing Race, which is the largest multiracial, intergenerational racial justice gathering in the country. Race Forward also has offices in Oakland, California, and New York City, New York. At Race Forward, Ms. Daniels is responsible for all branding and communications initiatives in support of the organization's mission to build awareness, solutions, and leadership for racial justice. She oversees marketing and communications activities in the realms of print, media, social media, video, and graphic design. Prior to joining Race Forward, Yarlin Daniels was the executive director of the Metropolitan Detroit Truth and Reconciliation Commission on Racial Inequality, where she led a community-based effort to conduct an analysis of structural and institutional racism in Metro Detroit. She has been a successful manager in well-known organizations including Hallmark Cards, Johnson & Johnson, Ford Motor Company, and Bentley Motors. Mrs. Daniels' experience in nonprofit and for-profit sectors is complemented by her educational background. She holds a law degree from Wayne State University and an MBA in marketing and finance from the University of Michigan. International study experiences in Germany and Japan and work assignments across the globe have enhanced her ability to understand and effectively communicate across cultures. A native of Kansas, she is a proud parent of a 15-year-old son, Malcolm, who's with her here today. In her spare time, she enjoys reading, traveling, exercise, public speaking, mentoring foster children, and watching sports, especially Malcolm's. Yarlin Daniels.
Good morning. Are you all awake? Okay, so I want to first of all thank you so much for this opportunity. It is truly a pleasure to be here. Thank you to the distinguished congressmen, state senators, city council members, Troy, school board members, all of you who are here, especially these young people. Can we again give them a round of applause? You know, as I was sitting there, I was thinking that we could package all of their speeches and their videos and their artwork together, and that could be the keynote. And then we could all go and have breakfast and go home, because they did such a fantastic job. Before I get started, I want to give us another thanks to my son, Malcolm. Malcolm is a fantastic kid at UP Jesuit. And if you think it's painful having to listen to me, just imagine being him. So he kind of struggles through it. So, you know, I see our gathering here today as very much akin to a civil rights gathering, the kind that Martin Luther King and his compatriots would have had. And music was a very important part of the civil rights movement. The choir this morning did a fantastic job, but gatherings were started with music. And so we are going to start with a song, because you all didn't think that I was going to be the only one just up here talking, did you? Oh, no. This is going to be pretty interactive. So I want to have you join me in a song. And I think it's very fitting for us here today. And we're going to keep singing it until we are all centered in our hearts and in our minds. And when I do like this, that will be the end. So the words of the song, and the song goes like this. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. I'm going to bring this mic out here, you guys. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Can you give yourself a round of applause? So, there are lots of things that come to our minds when we think about the civil rights movement. Of course, we all think of I Have a Dream and that famous march in Washington. Some of us right now, we might be thinking about the movie Selma. How many of you have had a chance to see it? Okay, fantastic. For those of you who have not, I encourage you, I implore you, I beg you to please go and make this a part of your MLK weekend. Some parents may be wondering whether or not it is appropriate for your children. I assure you it is, because only through teaching our children the kind of violence that can result from hate can we prevent that violence from occurring in the future. So today I want to talk to you about community. The organizers of this fantastic event selected a theme, and that is the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands in times of challenge and controversy. And the question that these students so wonderfully answered is, what am I doing to make a positive change in my community? Well, in our discussion, let's first just develop a really common understanding of what Dr. King meant by the ultimate measure of a man. Now, many of you may not know this, but that quote comes from one of his sermons, and that sermon was called On Being a Good Neighbor. On Being a Good Neighbor. And the subtitle was, Who is My Neighbor? So let's talk about that for just a little bit. Now, in this sermon, Dr. King talks about a very common biblical story of the Good Samaritan. If you're not familiar with that, let me just break it down really quickly. So you've got this man who's been beaten and he's bloody, he's lying on the side of the road, and there's another man traveling on this road from Jerusalem to Jericho. So you might say that, they were in a bad part of town. Well, a couple of people passed by and they kept going for whatever reason. We don't know why. A priest passed by, another person passed by, but maybe it was because they felt like it was dangerous. Maybe it was because that person was a different race or a different religion. Maybe it's because that person was gay or poor or didn't speak their same language. But for whatever reason, they walked on by. But there was one person who stopped. There was one person who decided to be a good neighbor. Now, this is an example of how a person behaves in a time of challenge and controversy. So let's have a thought experiment here. I want the young folks in the room to think about a bully. Now, some of you might be that bully, because I know some of you might be. Now, think about either a bully. Now, adults, you might think about for just a second that person at work who just makes your job that much more difficult. Or maybe that mom or dad in your play group who somehow finds something to complain about just all the time. So I want you to imagine whichever scenario works for you. Now, when you have that person in your mind, what I'd like for you to do is just raise your hand. Don't say anyone's name out loud. We don't want to cause any drama, any hurt feelings. So when you have that image of that person in your mind, that bully, that person who annoys you at work or in your social group, raise your hand. Come on. Everybody has somebody. Okay, thank you very much. Now, imagine that person lying on the side of the road. What do you do? Decisions. So many of us would walk by, but some of us would be like that person. Some of us would exemplify that ultimate measure of a man, woman, boy, or girl. Now, most people can. It's easy to be very kind and loving and compassionate when it's easy to do so when it's a friend, when it's a family member. But in other cases, it's much more difficult. So now that we have talked about when we might be a good neighbor, let's talk about who we should be a neighbor towards. In this same sermon, Dr. King told us something else. He said one of the greatest tragedies of history has been limiting our neighborly concern to tribe, race, class, or nation. Now, I'm going to say that one more time because, see, that's not one of those really, really famous quotes that we all can recite. One of the greatest tragedies of history has been the limiting of neighborly concern to tribe, race, class, or nation. So we see neighbors aren't limited to those who attend our same school, our same church, our same synagogue, our same temple. Neighbors are not limited to those who live in Troy. Neighbors are not limited, if we are black, to those who are black, if we are white, to those who are white, if we are Asian, to those who are Asian, if we are Native American, to those who are Native American, if we are Hispanic, to those who are Hispanic, if we are Indian, to those who are Indian. Our neighbors are wherever and whomever we encounter in our travels. Dr. King showed us through his work that a neighbor has no limits. Being a neighbor, he showed us, is not even about race. Because, see, Dr. King didn't only see black people as neighbors. He worked to help poor people of all colors. The goal of his Poor People's Campaign was to address the housing and economic and educational issues of poor people, poor black people, poor white people, poor Hispanic people, poor Asian people. Dr. King's work also demonstrated that being a good neighbor is not based on where you live. He didn't only see his southern friends as neighbors. Most of us don't know, but Dr. King moved to Chicago in 1965. He moved to Chicago to address the oppression and segregation that was present in Chicago, that was present in New York, that was present in Detroit. Because, see, oppression and segregation, Dr. King understood, was not just a Southern phenomenon. So, because that oppression and segregation was there, he went to where it was. He was a neighbor to more than just his geographical neighbors. The other thing that Dr. King showed us was being a good neighbor is not only about what country you live in. Because Dr. King was concerned with Vietnamese over 8,000 miles away when he spoke against the war in Vietnam. And please remember, that was a time of challenge and controversy. When Dr. King spoke up in defense of those people in Vietnam, he was ostracized by many of his friends in the civil rights movement. His invitation to the White House by President Johnson was rescinded. So, being a good neighbor, because it is broadly defined, that is the kind of work that we do at Race Forward. That is the kind of work that I have committed my life to. So, how we define a good neighbor at Race Forward, we are neighbors to black men who face challenges that contribute to a lifetime of inequity, including diminished job prospects, mass incarceration, and the perpetuation of harmful stereotypes by the mainstream media. At Race Forward, we are neighbors and show concern to those who, in seeking to start a new life in this country, are labeled illegal. We actually led a campaign called Drop the I Word because we believe that no human is illegal. At Race Forward, every day at colorlines.com, we feature stories that talk about people like the Good Samaritan, people who are beaten and broken down by the system that refuses to see their humanity. We tell stories about Blacks and Asian and American Arabs and Muslims, gay, lesbian, trans people of color. Through these stories, we help, we heal, and we provide hope. So as we go from here and we ponder on that question of what am I doing to make a positive change in my community, let's stop and think about what community truly means. Now, as I close, I want to acquaint to some of you and remind some of you of all of the wonderful examples, or some of the wonderful examples we have throughout our history of people who truly had a broad definition of community and who truly understood that community was not limited by their city, town, state, or any other kind of boundaries. So, because I believe that this is a participatory exercise, we're going to do that one more time. So what I am going to do, I believe that there is power. There is power in speaking. There is power in saying names. There is power in acknowledging and in recognizing those who have come before us. I'm going to say the name of a person and tell you a little bit about what they did. And what I'd like for you to do in response is say, "We speak your name." Okay? So what I'm going to do, I'll say something, and then I'm going to move my hand like this, and that's the time for you to say, thank you. So, for Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, for sharing with us your dream that gives us hope that we can achieve the beloved community you envision, where Black men, white men, Jews, and Gentiles would sit together at the table of brotherhood. For Mahatma Gandhi, the small man who took on a mighty empire and in the process taught principles of nonviolence that would be key to struggles for liberation of people around the world. For Yuri Kochiyama, the daughter of Japanese immigrants who joined the fight against oppression of Blacks and Asians, and for the independence of Puerto Rico. For Grace Lee Boggs, a Detroiter, a committed activist right here who has worked tirelessly to advance issues related to African Americans. For Viola Biuzo, the housewife from Detroit who left the comfort of her home, the security of her family, to go to Selma, Alabama to help Blacks to register to vote and was murdered because of her commitment to civil rights. For Julius Rosenwald, the co-chairman of Sears, the former retail giant, who donated millions to the Jewish community and to issues of African American education. To Dr. Yusuf Dadu, the Muslim Indian South African, who boldly convinced the Indian community to link together with the Black South African community in the struggle of apartheid. And in closing, because there is so much power in names, I would like for you all to say your own name as a commitment to as a signal to your commitment to the struggle. So what I'd like for you to do is say your own name, and then everyone will respond with, "We speak your name." Okay? Let's go. Yarlin Daniels, and you are? And we say, "We speak your name." Thank you. Take this day in your hearts with you throughout the rest of the year, and I appreciate your time so much.
Thank you, Yarlin. And just to continue with that theme, since we're all in concert and doing this, how about for Yarlin Daniels, who challenges us to rethink what community is and who our neighbors are. Thank you, Yarlin.
In the summer of 1963, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his I Have a Dream speech to over 200,000 Americans in Washington, D.C. The speech defined the basis of the civil rights movement. Dr. King's words still carry deep meaning for all people.
Thank you all again for joining us at this annual celebration. I would like to recognize the committee that put this program together for us. Representing the Troy School District and the City of Troy, we have Cindy Stewart, Betty Goss, Carrie Birmingham, Carrie Sekich, Michelle Fredericks, and Mr. Jason Witt. Special thanks to Gail Moran, Stephanie Gervais, and Sodexo Food Service staff, Gino Michella, and district technical crew, EnviroClean and the custodial staff at Athens High School Concert Choir and Magic under the direction of Mrs. Fredericks, Jackie Kohler, Athens High School accompanist, Carrie Sekich, TSD Fine Arts Coordinator, Patrick Conable, Smith Middle School, and Jeff Williams, Bowen Park Middle School for assisting with the MLK videos, Karen Rockwell, and the TSD cable crew, Michelle Abels, Weil Kassir, and Dominic Larch. And be sure to check out the art exhibit when you go to the cafeteria for breakfast, featuring work from our talented elementary school students and their teachers, Mrs. Sarah Close, Wass Elementary, first grade, Mrs. Katie Hosbeck, Bemis Elementary, and Hill Elementary, second grade artists, Mrs. Amy Mee, Bemis Elementary and Leonard Elementary, second and fifth grade artists, Mrs. Tanya Meyer, Morse Elementary, and Waddles Elementary, fourth and fifth grade artists. Special thanks to Athens High School administration and staff, Troy School District, City of Troy Community Affairs Department, and sponsors.
If you're in the audience, please come up on stage when I call your name. Our platinum sponsors this morning are City of Troy, so Mayor Slater, Troy School District, DT Energy Foundation. Our gold sponsors are Alliance Mobile Health, Sodexo Food Service, Troy Community Coalition, Troy Foundation for Educational Excellence, and Walls College. Our silver sponsors are Beaumont Health System, Big Beaver United Methodist Church, Troy Interfaith Group, and Troy Lanes. So we'll have them stay on stage. And Yarlin and Malcolm, please come up and join us with our sponsors.
In closing, we hope that you found this morning enjoyable and inspirational. As educators, community leaders, and residents, we are in a unique position to be a beacon of light in the ongoing struggle for social justice and peace. We must continue as a community to champion the fight for equality in our daily lives. In Dr. King's own words, the person who passively accepts evil is as much involved in it as he who helps to perpetrate it. Thank you again for your time this morning. We would like to close as a community by singing We Shall Overcome. Essay, art, and video contest winners, please join us on stage.
We Shall Overcome is an American song expressing social concern. This song is an adaptation of an old hymn tune. It came into being in the 1930s at a time where coal miners in West Virginia were struggling for a decent standard of living and for safe conditions in the mines. The song became prominent during the civil rights movement in the 1960s. We Shall Overcome has since become identified with struggles against many kinds of oppression.